Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about life, works, and writings of Jose Rizal. We are now in chapter 3, School Days in Biñan. Jose Rizal said, "This is the town where my father first saw the light of day, and where he sent me to continue studying the rudiments of Latin which I had started to learn." The first formal schooling of Rizal was in Biñan, the natal town of his father. This town is near Calamba. He attended a private school under Maestro Justiniano Aquino Cruz, who was reputed to be a good teacher. Rizal studied in this school from 1870 to 1871. A brief interlude in his boyhood, which was full of significant memories, his account of his school days in Biñan give us a vivid glimpse of the kind of elementary education which Filipino boys obtained during that time. It was an education with much religion and overly strict discipline. A pupil had to study the hard way. He was whipped by the teacher to make him learn his lessons or to behave well. Early schooling of Rizal. The first teacher of Rizal, as we have already stated, was his mother. On her lap, he learned the Latin alphabet and the Catholic prayers. Was given further instruction by private tutors such as Maestro Celestino and later Maestro Lucas Padua. Later, his father hired an old man, Leon Monroy, who had been his classmate to give Rizal the first lessons in Latin. This old Latin teacher lived in the Rizal home, but he died 5 months later. His death cut short Jose's instruction in Latin. Don Francisco was not discouraged by the loss of the private tutor. He heard of a good teacher who was running a private school in Biñan, and, being eager to give his son a good education, he decided to send Jose to that town. Doña Chodora agreed to his decision. Little Jose was then 9 years old. Jose goes to Biñan. One Sunday afternoon in June 1870, Jose, after kissing the hands of his parents and a tearful parting from his sisters, left Calamba for Biñan. He was accompanied by Pasiano, who acted as his second father. The two brothers rode in a carromata, also known as calesa. Reaching their destination after 1.5 hours' drive, they proceeded to their aunt's house, where Jose was to lodge. It was almost night when they arrived, and the moon was about to rise. That same night, Jose, with his cousin named Leandro, went sightseeing in the town. Instead of enjoying the sights, Jose became depressed because of homesickness. By the light of the moon, he recounted and said, "I remembered my native town, and I thought with tears in my eyes of my beloved father, my idolized mother, and my solicitous sisters. How sweet to me was Calamba, my own town, even if it was not so rich as Biñan." First day in Biñan school. The next morning, that was Monday, Pasiano brought his younger brother to the school of Maestro Justiniano Aquino Cruz. The school was in the house of the teacher, which was a small nipa hut about 30 meters from the home of Jose's aunt. Pasiano knew the teacher quite well because he had been a pupil under him before. He introduced Jose to the teacher, after which he departed to return to Calamba. Immediately, Jose was assigned his seat in the class. The teacher asked him, "Do you know Spanish?" "A little, sir," replied the Calamba boy. "Do you know Latin?" "A little, sir," replied again of the Calamba boy. The boys in the class, especially Pedro, the teacher's son, laughed at Jose's answer. The teacher sharply stopped all noises and began the lessons of the day. Jose described his teacher in Biñan as follows. He was a tall, thin, long-necked man with a sharp nose and a body bent slightly forward. He usually wore a sinamay shirt woven by the skillful hands of the Batangueñas. He knew by heart the grammars of Nebria and Gainza. Add to this a severity which to my mind was excessive, and you have the picture I have of him, said Jose Rizal. First school brawl. In the afternoon of his first day in school, when the teacher was having his siesta, Jose met the bully Pedro. He was angry at this bully for making fun of him during his conversation with the teacher in the morning. Jose challenged Pedro to a fight. The latter readily accepted, thinking that he could easily beat the Calamba boy, who was smaller and younger. The two boys wrestled furiously in the classroom, much to the glee of their classmates. Jose, having learned the arts of wrestling from his athletic Uncle Manuel, defeated the bigger boy. For this feat, he became popular among his classmates. After the class in the afternoon, a classmate named Andres Lacondanan challenged him to an arm wrestling match. They went to a sidewalk of a house and wrestled with their arms. Jose, having the weaker arm, lost and nearly cracked his head on the sidewalk. In succeeding days, he had other fights with the boys of Biñan. He was not quarrelsome by nature, but he never ran away from a fight. In these school fights, he won some and lost others. Painting lessons in Biñan. Near the school was the house of an old painter called Juancho, who was the father-in-law of the school teacher. Jose, lured by his love for painting, spent many leisure hours at the painter's studio. Old Juancho freely gave him lessons in drawing and painting. He was impressed by the artistic talent in the Calamba boy. Jose and his classmate, Jose Guevara, who also loved painting, became apprentices of the old painter. They improved their art so that in due time they became the favorite painters of the class. Daily life in Biñan. Jose led a methodical life in Biñan, almost Spartan in simplicity. Such as life contributed much to his future development. It strengthened his body and soul. Best student in school. In school studies, Jose beat all Biñan boys. He surpassed them all in Spanish, Latin, and other subjects. Some of his older classmates were jealous of his intellectual superiority. They wickedly squealed to the teacher whenever Jose had a fight outside the school, and even told lies to discredit him before the teacher's eyes. Consequently, the teacher had to punish Jose. Thus, Rizal years later said that, in spite of the reputation I had of being a good boy, The day was unusual when I was not laid out on a bench and given 5 or 6 blows. End of Biñan schooling. The time came when Jose learned all that Maestro Justiniano could teach him. Accordingly, the teacher informed his parents that he should be sent to college in Manila. In December 1871, Jose received a letter from his sister Saturnina informing him of the arrival of the steamer Talim, which would take him from Biñan to Calamba. Upon reading the letter, he had a premonition that he would not return to Biñan, so that he became sad. He prayed in the town church, collected pebbles in the river for souvenirs, and regretfully bade farewell to his teacher and classmates. He left Biñan on Saturday afternoon. That was December 17, 1871. He was thrilled to take passage on the steamer Talim, for it was the first time he ever rode on a steamer. On board, a Frenchman named Arturo Camps, a friend of his father, took care of him. Upon arrival in Calamba, Jose was welcomed home by his parents, brother and sisters. The Christmas of 1871 was a joyous and memorable one for him. He was home, and he regaled his brother and sisters with numerous tales of his fights, escapades, and school triumphs in Biñan. Injustice to Hero's Mother. After the Happy Christmas holiday in 1871, Don Francisco thought of sending Jose to Manila to study. Before June came, tragedy struck the Rizal's family. Doña Tudora was arrested on malicious charge that she aided her brother Jose Alberto in trying to poison Alberto's wife. Jose Alberto, a rich Biñan landowner, had encouraged the artistic development of his talented nephew, Jose Rizal. He had gone to Europe on a business trip during his absence. His wife abandoned their home and children. When he returned to Biñan, he found her living with another man. Enraged by her infidelity, he planned to divorce her. Doña Tudora, to avert family scandal, persuaded him to forgive his erring wife. The family trouble was amicably settled, and Jose Alberto lived again with his wife. However, the unfaithful wife connived with the lieutenant of the Guardia Civil to fabricate evidence that her husband attempted to poison her, with Doña Tudora as an accomplice. This lieutenant had an axe to grind against the Rizal family because at one time Rizal's father refused to give him fodder for his horse. Taking the opportunity to avenge himself against Don Francisco, he arrested Doña Tudora. He was so brutal in placing her under arrest, forgetting that many times he had been a guest in the Rizal home. Ordinarily, Doña Tudora, the accused, should have been confined in the Calamba jail. The judge, who had also been a guest many times at the Rizal home, was vengeful. Like the lieutenant, he nursed a grudge against the Rizal family because he imagined that he was not accorded greater respect than the Filipino guests in the Rizal home. He ordered that Doña Tudora be sent to the provincial jail in Santa Cruz, capital of Laguna. The lieutenant forced the hero's mother to walk on foot from Calamba to Santa Cruz, a distance of more than 50 kilometers. She languished in jail, for her case dragged on until it reached the Supreme Court. Doña Chudora, as a worthy mother of a hero, endured her cruel fate with Christian resignation and courage. While her own family was in despair, she was confident that someday, with God's help, her innocence would be recognized by the court and justice would be done. The martyrdom of Gomburza. The Rizal family had not yet recovered from the painful shock of the mother's imprisonment when another calamity occurred. On January 20, 1872, the Cavite Mutiny flared up, followed by the execution of Father Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora on February 17. Jose's older brother, Pasiano, then a student in the College of San Jose, was boarding with Father Burgos, his beloved professor and friend. He was a trusted assistant of Burgos in the fight for the Filipinization of the parishes. After the execution of Fathers Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, Pasiano quit college. He returned to Calamba and related the story of Burgos' martyrdom to his younger brother Jose. Years later, Dr. Jose Rizal wrote of Burgos, "He awakened my intellect and made me understand goodness and justice. His farewell words I shall always remember. I have tried to pass on to you what I received from my teachers. Do the same for those who come after you." Jose Rizal was nearly 11 years old when the tragic martyrdom of Gomburza took place. Despite his tender age, he was deeply affected. It was another Spanish injustice, like that done to his own mother. It further buttressed his determination to consecrate his life to combat the evil forces of his times. That's all for chapter 3.